Thanks for clicking on to Wayne.com. He's Justin Kenny of the News Sentinel. I'm Glenn Marini, and it is week 7 already. Starting to think playoffs. And conference races, they've certainly heated up a bunch in the SAC. That is indeed the case. Snider, the front runner, they got a couple of tough games over the next couple of weeks, and it does start with your North Side Redskins
North Side Redskins.
In week 7 at Chambers Field, man. How do you feel about this one?
Well, I think it comes down to what every game this year has come down to Snider is, can you slow that offense down? Carroll did it enough to be in the game 21-7, but just couldn't score points. You cannot make mistakes, and you have to force turnovers and force Snider to making mistakes. Now, can Northside do that? I don't know. We'll see.
When you take a look at Northside, they've had some success against Snider recently. Yeah. 2013, when they won the SAC championship, they beat Snider that season. They've had some really good games as well against the Snider Panthers. Snider doesn't change a whole lot year to year, although the personnel offensively is maybe a little bit better than it has been in the past, just the talent that they have and the number of guys. But what do you do to prepare for a team like Snider, specifically their offense this week if you're Northside? And you know Ryan Hall loves that D.
Yeah, well, it's so hard to replicate all the weapons that Snider has, you know. I mean, not just Isaac Stiebling, but looking at Mac Hippenhammer and Malik Bramley and their two running backs, you know, Money Woods and Dominic Scott. I mean, it's so tough to replicate that in practice. You can talk about it, you can watch it on film, and you can scheme against it, but until you face guys that are that talented and that athletic on Friday night, it's really tough to prepare, and I think that's the problem that teams have had this year with Snider's. You can't really properly prepare for them because they're so deep and so talented at the skills positions.
You can ask the Carroll Chargers. You can ask a number of teams. Arian Nieves makes plays when he has to. At least he has at certain points in the season. How do you prepare for that? And then Logan Capps has really broken out the last couple of weeks. How do you make sure if you're Snider's defense, he doesn't get away from you like he did against Northrop this past Friday?
Well, I think, you know, you focus on Arian Nieves. You cannot let him scramble out of the pocket. He's just such a good improviser, much like, you know, Keon Powers last year that we saw at Wayne. He can make things happen with his arm or his legs, get him out of the pocket, and he's dangerous. Logan Capps, we've seen him play quarterback too the last couple weeks, and moving him around offensively. I'd love to see him in the slot. As a slot receiver position would be perfect in that role too when Nieves is at quarterback. So there are some weapons that Northside has. They should be able to put up some points on Friday. The big battle for me, I think, is that offensive front for Northside against that defensive front of Snider. I mean, Northside is going to be able to at least split up front with Snider. They cannot get dominated up front. It sounds, you know, cliche, easy, but you have to win that battle, and we'll see if Northside can do it.
I know coaches don't want to hear about this, but if you're Snider, how do you make sure these guys don't even overlook? I know Northside's getting votes in the 5A poll, but overlook Northside with Dwenger hanging there and a possible conference championship to be clinched, I guess, next Friday. How do you make sure, if you're Kurt Tittman and all those guys, these guys, you know, don't overlook something, because 14 to 18-year-olds, it's tough to see where their mind's at.
Well, you mentioned it earlier that Northside has won a couple games against Snider last couple years, so I think you have that for Snider. As you can look back even a couple years ago that, hey, you know, that Northside beat them. So you can look at that. But I think this has become a real rivalry game, especially for Northside. I mean, they focus on beating Snider, and they have done it to a reasonable success the last couple years in the regular season. Haven't been able to do it in the playoffs. But Northside will be ready to play. Snider better be ready to play because you mentioned they have a big game week 8 against Dwenger.